What's up, Bone Diddlies? It's Patrick Starkey here. Another season of fantasy football is in front of us. Thursday night, we're having games. Guys, that was a great draft, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. Recapping the draft, giving you all grades. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but I've got so much excitement to talk about players that I just absolutely love on everybody's team. And again, these are my grades, so you can just deal with it. If you want to make your own grades, then go ahead. But this is this is part of the fun that I have with fantasy football. My assistant's texting me right now because I'm trying to put a deck on my clinic and it's raining right now. So I've got a minute right now to get this done. So let's get into it. Man, I don't want to go first, but since it's already up, let's just recap the draft. Let's go into league and then down to draft recap, and then we can view by team. Oh, okay. Well, guess who's on the start here? This is probably... We're starting out strong because I absolutely loved this draft. First, Jamar Chase. I mean, that was an easiest first pick ever. And then on the turn, to really just capitalize on value, Brian Thomas Jr. to fall in that 301 spot is just nuts to me. He's a wide receiver one, so you have two wide receiver ones. And I don't want to skip Kyron because that is such a great fantasy PPR running back as your foundation. It's just beautiful, man. Beautiful. Chuba Hubbard in the fourth just to solidify an RB2. They gave him a contract. There's nobody else there. He just doesn't sound sexy, but he's always going to give you 15 points, man. And there are players that just have to have on your roster that are just your foundation, and Chuba Hubbard is one of those guys. In the fifth round, DK Metcalf, great snag here. Aaron Rodgers is now the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's the only guy in town, really. So we see that. Bo Nix, gosh, I want to be on the Bo Nix hype train because last year he did nothing but impress me. But for whatever reason, I don't love the fact we're drafting him this high. I know that in this part of the draft, there was basically a drop in quarterback talent, so I get the pick, but I don't love it. I do like the David Njoku pick. He's going to come out so hot with Joe Flacco, his best friend, throwing him the ball as your tight end. It just shores up such a great depth piece here. And then in the late rounds, Michael Pittman, oh my gosh, Evan Engram to back up David Njoku, Keenan Allen a steal, and back up Brian Robinson for the San Francisco 49ers. Top to bottom, this is how you draft. I mean, I guess I could ding you a little bit for Bo Nix, and that's just my bias, really, Kevin. So I don't do this often, but I think this is an A+ draft right here. This is a template of how to draft. And I wish I had any remnants of a team like this. But this is going to be a tough team to beat every week. Moving on here, we've got Artie. Artie was the number 2 overall pick with Bijan. Love that. Ladd, you know, there was other guys there I thought maybe were worth the pick, but I get the Ladd McConkey. I had him last year, loved him. Trey McBride is at 301, is awesome in PPR. I also had him. And he just gets 10 catches a game, so you can't argue with that. My first ding here for you is Breece Hall. He is, at least from the preseason, sharing the backfield with Braylon Allen. And he's been kind of tweeting some weird shit, so I don't love it. Mike Evans. Oh my God, I cannot believe he fell all the way to the 5th round. This week, week 1, guess where he's ranked? He's ranked as a wide receiver 1. So he's old. I think that's what we all get. And then you stacked it with Baker. That is nasty, I must say. I thought that was such a great little stack right there. In the 6th round, not too bad. And then you know, as your third running back to get R.J. Harvey, great. I think we got a little carried away with running back here, though, didn't we, Artie? R.J. Harvey, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, and then Will Shipley. I get the backup stuff, man. That's great. But, you know, looking at, you've got Ladd, Mike, and then we kind of drop off as far as wide receiver, and you're going to need them, especially with Mike Evans, you know, with his injury stuff. So, fingers crossed here. I think that's really what takes me down from an A+ here. I think I'm going to be in the A range for this draft too. Little mistakes were made. Good depth. But the only thing I think is maybe you did the opposite of me. You went a little crazy with the running backs and didn't think about wide receiver depth. So it's an A for me. Moving on here, we've got Dylan. Dylan with the number 3 pick going with Saquon. You can't go wrong with that. And then Brock Bowers to fall to you. I think that's a steal there. He's a PPR machine. Love those first 2 picks. Don't like the Tyreek Hill pick. Just because he's your wide receiver 1 now. You know, and you got to rely on him. Look, I could be completely wrong. But it just doesn't sound like a lot of positive things are coming out of camp much. And to lean on him. And then Marvin Harrison. Like, I think both of them have the potential to be amazing. Both of them have question marks around them. Travion Henderson as your wide running back too, and Aaron Jones, honestly, is such a great, substantial backfield. You will love having all these players supporting Saquon here. Kyler, don't love it. I mean, I guess that's the stack that you were going here for here. I had Kyler last year. He was terribly disappointing, very up and down, and it was hard to even tell which week was going to be which. Jordan Addison's good pick. Khalil Shakir, PPR is not too bad. And then I like the idea of your IR stash stuff. You got 2 wide receivers, studs, and you're just kind of hoping that they get better with an IR spot. I kind of like that strategy. Overall, though, you know, I really like the first 2 picks. I like the running back depth you have here. It's the wide receivers for me that just start to lose the interest here, and then the Kyler Murray thing too. So this is a solid B draft here. I could even argue throwing a plus on there, but it's the wide receivers for me that make me a little nervous taking you out of the A range, Dylan. Good draft. Moving on here, we got Andrew, Louise's Revenge, number 4, Jahmyr Gibbs. That's easy stuff. Josh Jacobs, I think that's a steal in the later second round. So really go running back. You're thinking, I got to go wide receivers now. Jackson Smith. In the early third, I thought there was potentially some other guys there. I can't recall of who I would have taken at that spot particularly, but I think he's a low-end wide receiver 1, just because of this offensive potential. Sam Darnold now in Seattle. I don't know. It's just a kind of question. But I do see a clear path for Xavier Worthy. He's going to shore up that wide receiver group for you, bud. I really like that pick in the 4th round for Xavier Worthy. He should be up there too. I honestly think him and JSN are probably this week going to score about the same amount of points. Sam Laporta in the 5th, I thought was a bit of a reach, knowing all the weapons. Jameson Williams, and then Jameer and Montgomery. And you've kind of really planted your flag in the Detroit Lions offense, which isn't a bad offense to plant your flag in, but less variability. And then David Montgomery. I don't know if this is just the fact that you have Jahmyr Gibbs, but, you know, I didn't love that one because they're both starters. I had David Montgomery, and I started him last year just, you know, by himself as a flex, which was fine. But, man, I feel like you might be capping yourself by starting both of those guys and Laporta. I mean, I'm sure the touchdowns in some games could go around, but you kind of are limiting yourself to one pie, as they say. And that's going to be a tough thing to deal with starting. However, Ricky Pearsall in the 7th, I liked it. I loved it, actually. It's a great pick there. I think he's going to have a ton of volume. And then you went with kind of a ninja stack with Brock Purdy, Tyrone Tracy, Jerome Ford. Good depth here, really. There's not a lot of things I can really poke holes in here, Drew. It's solid. It's solid. I'd be curious to see how you deal with your running backs, with Montgomery being your third running back, now that I'm looking at it. Probably means he's not going to be a starter, but what a great depth piece. Great depth, honestly, now as I'm looking at it. I'm going to give you a B. Who's your quarterback? I'm giving you a B. Good job. Moving on here. Jai is a bottom feeder. I don't think that's Jai. That's Aaron. Aaron, Justin Jefferson. Great. A.J. Brown. Great. Lamar Jackson. Great. Garrett Wilson as your third wide receiver. The only thing is Justin Fields, he does not throw the ball as much, but he's the wide receiver one there. Great. So in the 5th round, you've got to find your running back. Sounds familiar. And Kenneth Walker, honestly, right off the gate is great. I think it's great. J.K. Dobbins might not be as great, but at least you got an RB hero here. Chris Olave in the 7th is just, based on the value that's falling to you. Get it? I love that you did reach and get Zach Charbonnet as your back. I think that's what makes me more worried about Kenneth Walker anyway. And then down the line, I really don't love the depth that you got. I like Bill Krosky. We'll see how he plays out. But in a PPR league, I don't think he's going to catch the ball. So that's the bigger concern. Love Jake Fergie. The top of your draft was epic. I think your first 5 picks was really solid. Then it seems to fall off. But I do have to remember that you have Lamar Jackson. So that's kind of where I've got to go back there. And who is your tight end? Is it? No, you got somebody else besides Jake Ferguson, right? You're running with Turd Ferguson. He's BPR wise, he's gonna be a good starter. But I'm gonna go B- here. I think it's just the tight end and then just kind of limited running back depth here that I'm a little worried about. And also, your 3 wide receivers are solid, but there's not a lot of depth underneath there for. It looks like you went for more backups than you did depth. So B- here. Aaron, we got Jimmy right in the middle of the draft going Ashton Genty. It was a reach according to everybody, but man, I wanted him. Everybody wanted him. He's the new shiny toy, and Jimmy's got to fucking take him. Thanks, Jimmy. But yeah, he's going to be a workhorse. I did hear some fun stats from a podcast saying, how do you find that running back one? And they had some specific stats. And specific stats that checked like 80% of how to predict who's the running back one is. And one obviously is like draft capital and opportunity. And I think he's going to get all that. But the other part is that you're on a winning team. Because touchdowns are going to really factor into that high upside stuff. So this is a plant on not only Ashton Genty, the player, Jimmy. This is a plant on the Las Vegas Raiders. You believe that they're going to be an offensively good to great team. And with that, that is how you convict yourself to take Genty at 6. And I don't necessarily disagree. So it's just, these are things that have never happened in a while. So we'll see. Overall, I'm talking a lot about him because I like him, but it's a good pick. Nico in the 2nd was cleanup duty, really. He fell. These wide receivers are wide receiver 1. I am a little worried about Houston. The offensive line is not great. Nico's has dealt with injuries in his recent past. So, there's got that. But, man, in the middle of the 3rd round to get Johnny Taylor is just criminal. Unbelievable pick here. That's an A+ pick. On the turn, Cortland Sutton as a nice depth piece to Nico. I like that. Sutton should be the wide receiver 1 with really not a lot of competition there. Huge reach on Emeka Egbuka, but hey, I was going to pick him 5 picks after you as well. Chris Godwin's out of the way. This is an offense that loves to throw the ball, obviously. And I just feel like he's just got a great opportunity to be a wide receiver too, potentially. And in your case, this is your 3rd wide receiver. Tony Pollard, right now, first 4 weeks, it's wheels up. Tony Pollard's going to be the starting running back for Tennessee. So you landed a nice starter there as your 3rd running back. Gained a lot of great depth with wide receiver. This is where I am just concerned. Look, I think there's upside again in both of these players. Caleb, I have less conviction on. Justin Fields with a running floor at least. But these quite possibly could be the 2 least favorite picks in the draft, especially back-to-back. You're leaning on you've got a cardboard house with a paper mache foundation here in quarterback. So I'm worried. And then your tight end, Kyle Pitts. Hey, look, in the 11th round, that's not bad. But this is where it kind of, we kind of lost that momentum there with this team. The running backs and the wide receivers in the first 7-8 rounds, this is flawless drafting here. It's taking your guys when you want them, maybe reaching when you want them, but really not really seeing that huge risk either with the picks that you took. So I'm going to give you a B- just because of your one-off positions, quarterback and tight end. But if you get that somehow shored up and one of your quarterbacks hit, this team's going to be very, very hard to beat. So B- for Jimmy. We've got McKendry free. I get it. Yeah. Who is this? I don't even know who this is. Let me try to think here. Who went Christian McCaffrey? Chase Brown. I think this was Jesse. I wish they just said it. All right, well, we're going with Jesse because he changed his name on me. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks. By team. Now I got to scroll all the way down, Jesse, because you changed your name. Christian McCaffrey, great pick. He's healthy. He's going to score. He's going to be a top 3 running back every week. It's just the injury concern. But you're taking a risk on... I mean, maybe Brian Robinson is going to run the ball like on first down. Maybe. Potentially. But he's probably not. It's probably going to be CMC. And then Chase Brown, dude. Those 2 running backs in PPR are going to be nasty. I love the first 2 picks. And then Jaden Daniels, you're going cheap on the wide receivers, but Jaden Daniels to shore up a really good quarterback. Sophomore slumps are kind of real in the sense that defenses finally do get an idea of how offenses are played with these quarterbacks in their second year. So maybe you lost a little momentum there. That's my opinion. Just because now your wide receiver 1 is Devontae Adams. And look, he's great. He's also 100 years old, playing with an 100-year-old quarterback who maybe just got healthy. I don't know. It's still hard to... And Devontae Adams isn't the guy that's getting the ball the most. So I think your upside in wide receiver is pretty limited. Zay Flowers, in an offense that typically just distributes the ball all over the place, Zay Flowers is solid. Don't get me wrong. But I don't see him. I don't feel comfortable as my borderline wide receiver 1. And then George Pickens, I do like the value here that you got with George Pickens. He was on my board on the other side of the draft, and I like him. But I don't love him as my wide receiver 1. I think you've got such good foundational players here at wide receiver, but you don't have the guy, That's the problem. But you did say, screw it, I'm going wide receiver. Jalen Waddle is a great draft in the 7th round. Rushy Rice, you're just waiting, but that's a long wait, 6 weeks. You're waiting for 6 weeks. He's going to be on your bench. You can't put him on the IR. Good job. You got the old maid card there. Javante, that's value. But, I mean, you've got 2 stud running backs, so you probably won't have to touch him. And then, you know, Tucker Kraft, he had a great year last year. He'll be a solid kind of in there type of tight end, but nothing great. Good stuff on the bottom here, but I think it's tight end, and I think it's your wide receiver room that has good but not great players that leads you out of the A range. But, I mean, the first 3 picks is going to give you a plus on that B. So we're going B plus with Jimmy or Jesse here. I hope it's Jesse. There's no Jew references. I don't know. It's screwing me up, Jesse. B plus. Jai. Going Joe Burrow, huh? Wow. I mean, I was just talking about you got to get your guys, but, you know, there is some tactfulness to this. If there's a guy that you want, you reach maybe a round or 2. And what this does is it just kind of handicaps your team. I'm not even telling you don't have a good team right now, but that's the tough part is you've lost your first round for a guy that's probably going in the 3rd. So you could have at least waited in the turn. You know, if you're going to reach, that's fine. But you lost a wide receiver 1, you know, and anyway, I don't like the strategy, but I do like when you got a guy, you got to get him. I just think that next year, wait around. Bucky and James Cook as your running backs are just absolutely solid. Terry, I'm way more high on than some people. I think we've just kind of already just forgot he just signed a contract, and he is the best wide receiver in this very high energy offense with Washington. And Travis Kelce's going to come off real hot. Matthew Golden as your wide receiver 2 is going to be tough. I mean, he's a very, very talented player, but that's a tough pill to swallow. Pacheco as your 3rd running back is great depth. And I just don't like the rest of it either. So I'm struggling to give you a C here because your wide receivers are down. I think your running backs are great. I think you did a good job with tight end. So let's go D plus for Jai. He's got a lot of proving to do here. He did get Nick Chubb, so I'll give you 2 pluses, D plus plus. Moving on here, we've got what the big Louise? That's JP because she doesn't change her name right before I'm about to do the draft analysis. Jesse. Derrick Henry at 9. Dude, that's great. And Puka is such a good value. I already have drafters regret on not getting him. I think it's just the worry about Matt Stafford. He's still dealing with a bit of a back thing, and it makes me nervous. But if everything's going well, Puka's going to be a wide receiver 1 for sure. Alvin Kamara as your 2nd running back is solid in the 3rd. I think you reached on Patrick Mahomes. I'll just say that out loud. The last couple years, he has been in the NFL, a top 5 quarterback. But he's been outside a top 12 quarterback in fantasy football over the last 2 years. There's a world where you have a great player, but not a great fantasy football player, and they're the same person. And that is Patrick Mahomes, especially getting drafted in the 4th round. It's too much. It's too much value. You could end up with another wide receiver here, and you can get a Patrick Mahomes value later. So, but I guess I have to stay to my opinion is also you got to go get your guys. And I know JP loves to get her guys. That said, Mark Andrews is a guy that she got. And Yeah, I was like, man, that's early. But you know, I just read that Isaiah Likely is out, and Andrews has had such a very, very scary last year where he was almost out of the offense the first half of the year and slowly earned his way back. But here we are in round 5. You have one wide receiver, and you've got your quarterback and tight end. So, like, now at the end of the draft here, you're going to need wide receivers, and Rome Odunze as your wide receiver 2 is not going to cut it. Travis Hunter, as much as I love him, as your wide receiver 2/3 is just not going to cut it. This is going to be really challenging. You hope and pray for the best here. And then to snag a quarterback at the 9th, your second one is that, you know, you're kind of handcuffing yourself. You need depth right now at running back and wide receiver. So, that is where it gets a little. I love Tootin though at the end. I was really debating on getting Tootin. Anywho, I see a lot of holes in this in your draft. In your draft process, I think quarterback, if you're going to go early quarterback, don't get a second guy in the 9th, you know? I think if you got a guy in the 4th, you know he's a starter for you. He's going to start, you know? And then you can play the waiver wire if you need, but it's a risky thing. So I'm going to give you a C here, JP. I think there's some depth that you can shore up here. And, you know, maybe Rome has a great breakout campaign in year 2 with the new offense in Chicago, and Travis Hunter blows the dicks right off of us here. But I'm going C for the draft. Moving on here, we got Bud in the 10th round. CeeDee Lamb somehow falls to you at the 10. Good fucking God. That's an A+ draft right there. On the turn, Devon Achane, you know, I drafted him last year in the 2nd round and had no regrets. But I just don't like drafting players that have an injury concern on week 1. Especially a fast small back with a calf injury. I don't think he's got a designation on him. But especially a guy who had CMC last year. Are you getting a little PTSD right now? Because I think Achane is a risky pick in the 2nd, in my opinion. I think there's some other depth or running backs there that maybe have less risk around them. So I can't argue, though. I like the build. You went wide receiver, running back, and then, God dang it, I was waiting for Kittle to fall. You got him in that late 3rd, which is exactly where he needs to be. He has upside to be the tight end 1 this year. Love the pick. This is, again, why you go tight end and then quarterback around. This is going to be tough to shore up depth at wide receiver and running back. Let's see how he did. But Jalen Hurts in the 4th, it was like you had to get him. You know, it's just too far. That's about where you want to get Jalen Hurts. And this is, going tight end and then quarterback is really tough because now you need running backs and wide receivers, and I think you did a fantastic job in this 5th and 6th round here. Ted McMillan is the wide receiver 1 in Carolina. People don't know him because he's a running back, or he's a rookie. So, but he's going to have such a great floor for you as your wide receiver 2. And then it's really paired well with J-Mo Williams because he's like a high, take a flyer on Jameson Williams. And then you got Tet and CD just with the volume. Jalen Warren's a starting running back for Pittsburgh, so he's no slouch. They're gonna use him. He just signed a contract. He was, again, another guy that I thought just fell way too far. So here you are. You're in the 7th round, and you've shored up all your starting positions, and I think you did a really good job. Maybe your running back depth here is a little sus, but then you go and get Caleb Williams. Caleb Johnson. That's really smart on your behalf. I don't think Caleb's going to come out hot. He might even get him a lot of playing time. This is Warren's backfield, but God forbid something happens or Caleb looks better. That's a great start. Man, as I talked, I didn't know where I would actually be ranking this team. I guess my only ding at the top is Achan because I just am worried about that. But the fact that you were able to snag Kittle and Hurts and still have a great wide receiver and running back room is commendable. A minus for Bud. And if anyone's listening, I'll do me now. Amon-Ra fell to me in the 12th. That's just nasty. I had a big decision between Drake London and Puka. I went Drake London just because of the safety there and the volume. And now I'm in trouble because on the turn, T. Higgins fell to me. It's like, man, I got to T. Higgins because it's too late for him to be here. And so I'm like, I got to go running back. So here we go. Murray Hampton, the rookie. And I just kept finding these guys that didn't deserve to be so late. Devontae Smith and Calvin Ridley. Now, maybe I should have hedged the Calvin Ridley with another running back, truly. But these guys don't need to be here in these late rounds. This is nuts to me. And then I finally did get a quarterback in Dak. He's going to have a good year. The first couple weeks are rough, but I do like that. And then Tyler Warren. If this is just a guy that I believe in, and I said it through this video, you got to plant your flag. I am on Tyler Warren. He looks like George Kittle when you watch his tape, dude. He's unbelievable. I do feel comfortable with some of this running back depth that I was able to snag late round, but this is where my draft kind of fell apart. I got one running back and got carried away with finding value instead of creating a roster. And Cam Scatterbo, I was rolling dice at this point, thinking Cam might take that role, and then I've got a running back too, or Quinshawn getting his head out of his own ass and signing a contract with the Browns and having a decent second half of the year upside. Braylon Allen, he had some flashes last year. Breece Hall's kind of on the down and down, so. I'm giving myself a B- for my draft. Good job, guys. Wish you the best. Love you.